going to do is ask our fantastic panel to introduce yourselves, to give you a flavour of what we're up to, and then I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, and then we're hopefully going to be enlightened from there. So we're going to start off with Isabel. Would you introduce yourself, please? Thank you.
Yeah. How everyone, my name is Isabel Johannesson, and I'm the head of the Startup Battlefield program at TechCrunch. If you're not familiar with the Startup Battlefield program, it is TechCrunch's early stage launch competition. So every year, I'm tasked with finding their 200 coolest, most up-and-coming startups in the world, any industry, to feature in TechCrunch Disrupt. So those 200 companies come to Disrupt. They exhibit, and the conference is essentially based around showcasing these 200 companies. And then we have a competition where the top 20 companies get up on our main stage at the conference. They pitch their live demo, which is always interesting, to our panel of top-tier VC judges. And you all get full feature articles in TechCrunch. And the winner gets $100,000 equity-free purse money. So it's a really fantastic program for early-stage companies. We just require that they have an MVP and their pre-Series A, but again, any industry. So that there are any early-stage companies in the audience, says chat afterwards. But yeah, it's a great exposure opportunity. So context for what I'm going to be contributing to the panel, hopefully today, is that in this world, you have a really unique view of the ecosystem as a whole. We get thousands and thousands of applications, again, from any industry at a very early stage. And so I think the TechCrunch comes in is that we're an in-between between hearing from the market and from the startups. By when they apply to the program, we get a sense for what is up and coming. Like, for example, last year, maybe there weren't as many consumer ad companies, whereas this year there are. So there's kind of trends that do been put out into the etherverse through TechCrunch.com. And VCs are listening to that to guide their investment choices for the year to come. So we're kind of this hater man amplifying the voices of founders and listening to what the VCs are looking for. So I'll stop there, but nice to be here.
Oh, thank you.
At Orbital.
Thank you so much for that, because first, I hate competition, so I will never apply for tech and just quit. And the second hate of it is the consumer ad heard there was I started building this company in summer last year, and nobody wanted to touch consumer. That has changed. You're saying that it's the next golden age of consumer because of the work that's been done with decentralization, and Jay Grabber talk about it, etc., but and also AI, by who I am. My name is Adi Rakship. I'm building Season. And you just kind of a re-ditto pitch this morning. We're voting the next Spotify for sports. And because that came from my whole life experience as a sports fan, I never played a sport. And it felt like I always had to explain why I could belong, have a conversation, how did I know everything about racing that I ever did? I built cars for a living in a last life, so of course I make you about it. But it felt like as a woman, I always had to explain. Well, let's die with Gen Z coming. A lot of that has changed. And we're building for the next generation of Gen Z fans. And 18 to 24-year-old women make up actually the largest growing sports fan base in the world. So we're very excited to vote for it. And over to you, Rebecca. Hello, everyone. This is my first. This is the first time this out of this, and I'm not sure that there are like any of you like me is first time here. No. Okay, yeah, I found my friends here. Okay, this is Rebecca from Hong Kong, and actually we're a venture-building group that invests and incubate and develops consumer brands that embrace technology and lean consumer behavior. So actually they invest in multiple companies, which is across wellness, lifestyle, entertainment, or even like new consumer trend. As long as like you are interested in that, like either like your investor, your consumer, yourself, or like your breeders, everybody talk to us because our headquarters is in Hong Kong, but we have go-to-market everywhere. So come to us and also talk to us. We love to build ecosystem together and also work with different partners and make things happen because it's all about collaborations.
Great, thank you. So on the side of Isabel, your view is to look at the whole Gen Z market and that crowded area of startups in that space. So from your perspective, what characteristics make an AI-driven consumer startup stand out?
Yeah, I mean, so for context, of course, either just look at Gen Z targeted companies, but that isn't a huge driving force behind consumer morale these days, obviously, right? So I think that they do look for, in this lens of targeting Gen Z, is countries that are focusing on value and ethics driven problems and trying to solve it, right? Gen Z is very passionate about sustainability. They're passionate about social justice, about health and wellness, right? These kind of topics that a lot of these AI companies that we see are really, really focusing on. And I think on a broader lens, like what we look for in these companies is just a lot of transparency behind where they're pulling their data from, what they intend to do with it, and who their audience is. I think Gen Z is a very intuitive generation and that they can sense BS from a mile away, for lack of a better term, but they really just want to hear genuinely like that this product is going to help my life. It's going to be engaging. It's going to benefit me and my funds who use it, right? It's not just a money-making tactic, right? And I think in the broader ecosystem that we see, there's a lot of different ambitions for starting companies. And I think to be just really honest about, I've experienced this problem myself and I decided to start a company about it, right? And, meeting people who are like me and enjoying our app or platform or whatever it is that they're building, but that sort of social transparency and just genuineness, and it is very important.
Thank you. Now, adding, you talked about enhancing the fan experience for Gen Z, particularly given sports fans, but how does AI-driven personalization enhance that experience?
I think what we've learned that there's this big myth first that Gen Z, and it does just apply to women then as well, that Gen Z does not get into sports. They don't like sports development, sports fandom is decreasing, and that usually comes from broadcast numbers. Now that's changing because most people now consume their sports knowledge from, I'd say TikTok, right? TikTok and Instagram is where you live. And so how we're doing it, and we can talk about the entry points of how we can map that in our existing ecosystem. We know that we're very heavy on something called context mapping. It's like, what context do you want to engage in your sports with? And so very simple, in our onboarding journey, we ask a user whether you are interested in cultural stories, are you interested in player stories, are you interested in stats, and the gameplay. And there's these multiple options you go through. And our AI agents are actually delivering the media studio in that context. Because you and I, Cliff, may not speak the same language. And that means like even English is certain different languages in one. And what language you use is really important. So we would like to say again and again is we use large language models to give you the language for sports.
Got it. Thank you. So, Rebecca, you look to invest in companies that are particularly focused upon Gen Z consumers. How do AI-driven insights help you find those companies that you want to work with?
I think the main point is how do you think the AI was shaping the culture and also the behavior? First of all, like how AI is actually in developing content creations and also shaping people absorbing and also getting the information every day. So if the company, they can actually code better content or they can be more concise or meeting the people that the for specific communities, and that will be our target, first of all. And second of all, you have to think about what are the shopping behavior changing? In the past, like when Google's coming out, you have Amazon, and then actually Meta's and I say TikTok coming out, you have social commerce. The verb if the next is like the AI commerce because like come on, Google just opening their phone, hey, tell me what I need to do, what I need to wear today, what I have to eat today. So this is how they actually using a voice message to generating their new customer behavior, and this is like how fitting their shopping behavior as well. So this is the second part of how you're thinking the whole consumer journey is shaping. And the fourth point is how we think the production is there, because it's more like the embedded is like in the past. The factory is like producing something that good nights need. That one now the point is like people is having their personalization. It's like how we can having more customized and as a personalized product. That's and with any of like data or startups, we can create that kind of personalized experience. They calculate on that. I mean, they are well visionary, right? They actually understand the consumer the best. So this is how they actually predict it.
Great, thank you. So, Isabel, what are trends that you're seeing in the startup ecosystem that show what the next big thing might be for Gen Z going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already touched on quite a few of them, but so we see a lot in sort of wellness, health, like fitness, a lot of those use cases. We see a lot in fintech, actually, a lot of sort of, I think Gen Z is a little worried about the financial future, financial stability. So we see a lot of like investment, personal banking, right, with AI, of course. And we see a lot of BD and social. We see a lot of, I'm trying to think what else we've seen in this recent application batch, because I think something to point out is that last year's application batch, we had very few consumer AI companies. And within this last year, we have now already like probably a fifth of our overall application pace so far. For context, applications opened like a day ago, so it's very early. But a lot of the ones coming in are consumer AI. So things are kind of shifting, and I'm very curious to see where it ends up 6 months from now, and we kind of close everything in decent data pane. But I think they're definitely some emerging trends. I think one that I'm very interested in is that fintech, and to see how that plays out, because I know there's a lot of solutions out there, but to target specifically Gen Z, I think could be really, really interesting.
So, Abby, there's another talk about when people talk about algorithms and AI, they're talking about biases and, to what extent can AI play a role in improving inclusivity in sports marketing and fan experiences?
And I wish we had something to show up like the white cloud analysis we just did last Friday. So there's two things that traditionally happens today in sports, right? Either traditional sports, and not talking women's sports, and talking all sports, men's sports and women's sports combined, lead make up 35% of the fan base and kind of contribute closer to $250 billion in that industry. But from the marketing standpoint, we forget either women exist as fans, or the second is we break them actively, because there's conversations I've had with ESPN fanatics, and they're, whoa, the men will walk away from the platform if they run Taylor to minimum on. So I would say the bias already exists. And you're trying to reverse that bias a little bit with artificial intelligence. I'll give a very simple example of how we've found that in large language models. There's something called sampling parameters that you use to say how that AI would talk to you. AI is really a very smart calculator at this point. So you're just trying to give it a voice in the tone of how you talk to you. And what we found that women like the warmth of our data. We just launched the beta last week. We give our large language models 5 times as the amount of words to play with when speaking to women about sports. That changes a lot of the way women start engaging, because those token capacities, that tells us that the language that's already used in sports today is very restrictive and does not necessarily relate to how women relate to sports. So we're trying to show, of course, from the analytical standpoint, we can show you where women are saying it's all about the same thing, just from diverse sources to also the stats and the brain of the strategy. But it's also how we train existing systems to have a recommendation model that caters to all. So we're actually using AI for the benefit to take the bias in the other direction.
Got it. Thank you.
And our jump in there is, I think to answer the question you asked previously of what we look for, a lot of it is this. It's founders who know their audience better than anybody else, know how to make their AI cater to their customer better than anything that's currently on the market, and being able to sell it the way you just did so eloquently, right? And being able to explain that, because we get a lot of applications from founders that's just they're building the coolest sports tech for running. Doesn't mean anything to me, right? TechCrunch is not going to pick that up. But if you explain it in that way of how we're really iterating and going through these steps to find the right data and find the right testing and getting to product market fit, is exactly the kind of AI companies that we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
You win the pitch.
This is much lower stakes than I thought it would be. Thank you.
So Rebecca, and I'm going to stay away from politics for obvious reasons, but but ethical sustainability, sort of making sure that things are in some ways great for the environment are really important to Gen Z. But how important is that from an investment perspective? And to what extent does AI get involved in that decision making?
Actually, this is very interesting question. Actually, people actually anything will ask AI, and then this is hard. Actually, people identify the way of AI because most of the things that they think AI can answer anything. They're using it as a multi-role, answering all the questions. But the problem was, are we wanting the right prompts to get the right questions? So that's the point. So it's about like what we can find the fund do this or like fund this, what can give them that prompt or like provide the right questions and or find distribution. Because I think what people, the human exists is to grow the creations and also making more strategic decisions. So how can they identify but what is strategic enough? And by using AI to do the repetitive things, routine things, I think that will be the smart findings that we identify and also explore. So I think validate the things that we think that important because if you're just giving me like, okay, this is the questions that, this is the picture you're generated by AI, we can't identify it because we are old enough or like you're mature enough to identify what's the value and don't. I keep continuing on that as well because I think there's a dichotomy in the consider base, even open Gen Z, but just in general for LI. There's a lot of people who are asking specifically for LI features. I want LI to do this for me. He's doing this. Can you build this feature, right? And there's a people here, obviously, in the game playing with it themselves, and they want to see a very specific evolution. But on the other hand, of course, there's tons of people who are not quite comfortable with AI yet, even in Gen Z, that are needing to be educated on how they should be using this or how they can use it in their daily life. And so what I can see about like if founders are able to wear both hats, right, is to kind of be educating and kind of teasing like this is what you can do with our tool, like opening up a whole new world to these consumers that didn't know it existed. Or on the flip side, catering to those who are asking, right? Like you said, listening to their feedback and iterating on it and just being incredibly flexible as they go along, I think is. Can I add a story to that one? So our product manager, she's an ex-broadcast journalist from OBC News. So she was telling news nightly for ABC. And then got here specifically because she knows the story and she is that Gen Z consumer. She is now designing machine learning context graphs with the help of Anthropic's tools. And that's because I pushed her. I told her TechCrunch every morning she needs to read it as her Bible.
Thank you. Who is it? We love a podcast. If we're really going to get into it, right, there's something called the AI Daily Booth. And we've like really cool that there's tools on your onboarding. If you're joining a consumer AI startup, this is all you need to know. You don't need to know anything about AI because nobody really knows anything about AI right now. You just need to be in to learn and actually use it for the right reasons and not really making cute filters like we got me more of those.
I was not the one you keep photos, but I'll run a quote. So Isabel, you well know Gen Z yourself. What are the insights that you can share to the audience that you believe that AI startups should consider when targeting your demographic?
No, I guess I just aged myself there, but I think the context is that Gen Z, they're not all kids anymore, right? We're grown up. Many of us are pushing 30, have mid-level careers. Like we're, people that are you engaging it on a daily basis? But I still feel like there's this kind of air of like when they talk about Gen Z, they're talking about the kids, right? The kids that need means to get us to explain things to them. And that's not where we're at all. So I think just being straightforward with it and realizing that this is, a degeneration of the next 20 years, right? This is really need to be catering to in any context. And so this comes in many shapes and forms. But of course, many of us are aware, but this is the digital generation, especially having been at the peak of our social timeline in life during COVID, right? Everything relied on digital tools to be able to communicate with our friends and family. So I think within that, there's no fooling Gen Z when it comes to like UI, right? If there's anything clunky, if it's not seamless, if it's too many steps, any of that is not going to fly with Gen Z and AI. So I think just really thinking through those. And like I said earlier, anything that kind of smells fishy in the sense of, that it's not fully transparent or ethical or sustainable, that also is going to be a huge turnoff to Gen Z. So I think just coming from a good place and wanting to give people a tool that can help them the way that it helped you, then I think that's kind of the winning recipe to begin an AI company for Gen Z.
Thank you. Now, Abby, if your bathing was kind of fan base, Spotify for sports, it's can't be a well just to understand where trends are now. It's got to be understanding where it's going.
I love this question.
Yeah. How does AI help you stay ahead of the curve?
I think what it does is like there's a big gap that we kind of discovered. So I was a consultant in a past life before this, and I was helping sports teams figure out how to maximize the asset strategy. So asset, if you think about it, your stadium, your polar, your data. On the other learned is that, and this is multiple series, by the way, and I asked, hey, when do you look at your women fan data? And they said, oh, Women's History Month. I'm like, okay, that's great. And then another series, I asked them, oh, how are you monetizing, improving that this junior series that's sitting inside, like, I don't know if a lot of people knew, WNBA is owned by Vendia. Formula Run Academy is owned by Refman. So all these bigger male sports series own these women's sports series. And I'm like, how are you showing the ROI of these investments that these teams are making? Because at the end of the day, these are all businesses. Today, they're getting, especially the demographic and user behavior data, there's two ways to get it. Either it's Meta, like that's where it's going, but I'll tell you, I have $60 on an ad running right now, and I don't have one conversion.
So those things are not working anymore just because of the lowest ways.
The Curry Data Assistant slide. And the second way to user getting it, and it's too expensive. It's $2 or $3 per user per month. They have millions of fans. It's not sustainable. The second part of it was you are getting it from ESPN, the broadcaster, or Nielsen. This comes out in a report twice a year. You can't do anything with it. See, there's no way for sports teams. Luke's probably have it, but that's not their prerogative. Their prerogative is to wind the day in. Teams who have to sell their product to know if the league does, do not have access to that data. They're going off of a lot of pre-existing bias, a Fanatics database maybe, or ESPN. But again, I've heard from ESPN, if they go on a one-info strategy and they leave on a none, everyone's going to hear about it and they haven't done much of a change because that's a real big asset for them. So for us, it's a really clean slate to show how data interactions can drive user behavior in sports, and that doesn't happen. I can tell today, I come from male of cars, like I said, I can tell what your tire pressure does that car and an app. I cannot tell what women you want from a data perspective today. So
that's why we're building here.
Right, thank you. Mel, and Rebecca, you're looking at businesses all the time, particularly in this space. And you talked about the opportunities, but what are the challenges of businesses incorporating AI into their business model more generally?
It's tough. It's really tough. I think, like, first of all, I would say, like, just explain a little bit business model. We invest in talents. We invest in ideas. And also they build ecosystem. So these are actually the first part that we do. And when you come to investment, we have to think about like what are the future trend that we have to invest. So the problem is people may not know what the trend is, and then actually the gap between like this is what they think about the trend and this is what they're building. There's actually a huge gap there. So how we can measure the gap? And also like finding like the right audience and also right product market fit. I think that's the first part, like very challenges. And if we're using AI, we cannot help you to shape this because they don't have backup experience. Because people using AI is just like using the part of this work that they have to identify the problem first. So this is like how can guiding the builders or like the operators to find the first principle questions that they are solving. So that's the first part. And then we actually getting to eager. So we have to think about what are the ideas that we as I love it because I invest in something that I'm excited about, like travel. We do wireless products. We do entertainment because we have enough resources and also data points to understand the trend. But if you're using AI to predict the trend, it's like very general and also like it cannot like capturing the market audience as well. I think this is the main point of us too. And the third part is like how we building and educating the audience as well, because this is how we are building as an ecosystem. How we can actually, especially the industry, because we are disrupting the industry. We're working with different factories, like building the new products experience. We're working with the legion like marketers. How can they adopt the AI? Because honestly, like a lot of people are resist to change. This is the main point. It's like they don't want to change. If they don't want to change, then how can you embrace the new trend? So this is like how you can actually ask the people like, okay, come on, this is AI is not replacing your work. It's like how you can empower you to work more efficiently and effectively. So this is I think also like having a hard time to identify the talents, which we call imaginator, that can using the imagination to work with AI to create the new products. So that will be something that be a big challenge, and we hope we can incubate these more ideas coming out as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Now, the question here, there are a couple of questions I want to ask all of you. So I'll be interested in your view from each of you in turn. Now, they talk a lot about Gen Z as digital natives, but really they're also the first truly AI native generation. How do you think this fundamentally changes the way that businesses and investors should approach them? Isabel.
I mean, I think I touched on this at a few different points too, is really just that because this is so native to Gen Z, that there's no fooling them, right? It needs to be seamless, it needs to be transparent. And I think from an investment standpoint, and then they're looking, I mean, at TechCrunch, we don't actually invest with a check, right? We invest by covering these companies and giving them media exposure. But then in the world, we think about this is that, if you are building a company that's, lacking defensibility, right? It needs to be from a unique data source, but also a credible data source and something that's ethically sourced, right? There are you pouring this and what are you going to use it for? I think that's something you will want to hear from the founders. And then just how they plan to tap into their communities and really create these ecosystems of other users. Because Gen Z is, again, like I said, very social on these digital platforms, specifically with AI. And if we're not tapping into that and getting these network effects, there's a huge opportunity cost.
Okay.
Here's a couple of things that come to mind. First, about being the online native part. However, I'll tell you, among women that I see more and more, I see mom using more of these tools to their advantage right now. So in my network, I tell all of the women around me, both millennial and Gen Z, to start using AI tools first. But I think if people followed Scott Valerie's talk this week, learningness is a really big part of consumer AI startups that's coming out, because there's a lot of ways this could go. We're all feeling a little bit disconnected right now. I don't necessarily feel connected to anything, even though I'm a millennial. And I am craving more deeper connection, which is what's driving our company, because we want people to have deeper conversation in sports. We wanted to be able to go pick up this AI-powered solution, learn everything about the UT football game, and show up there and make a couple of more friends. So there's this dichotomy that's showing up that people are also looking for these. AI will help you scale it, but I think the big trend right now that I'm seeing is everybody's looking for something real and a real connection that's going to happen, which is, again, also what I'm saying. Like, the great thing I would say is that YouTube is back. If people are not following that, YouTube is back. Nobody wants stating its podcast anymore, because I want to see in your face how you're talking about it. Give it to me in depth, but quicker in 10 minutes. So we're seeing this back to YouTube. That's a great trend to show, but I do think that we're going to find more and more people who can tap connection properly with whatever that is in the tool that they're building in their stack is going to be really the driver for where we go.
Thank you.
Literally a go back. I mean, this is all about authenticity, connections, and how we can co-create the audience together, because it's all about co-creation. It's like we understand them, we talk to them, we understand like how we can present it authenticity, and also like connecting like all the dots together, because I think this is how we made the great products, great brands, and we grew a better future together.
Thank you. And for the further lightning round, AI is reshaping the whole consumer experience for Gen Z, from retail to media to fintech. Which of the industries that you think are going to be most disrupted by this paradigm shift, and why? Isabel.
I know someone else goes first on this one. I need to think for a second. Wow. Honestly, as we've been here a while, I think actually it's disrupting all the industry. Honestly, to be very honest, like if they guys have any like objections, please answer and doesn't anymore. I definitely then they like discuss with you. But fundamentally, like what actually changing the most, I would say like two parts. One part is like education, like they educated or how they absorb knowledge, how they can digest knowledge, are totally different. And if you design the old education system, then that will be like totally like fuck up they fuck up. And I would say this is how I think the first part. And the second part is like media, because like content creator is the new media, and everyone is the new media, and AI is the new media as well. So actually, how it's developing the whole industry is because it's changing how they absorb the information, how they digest the information as well. So it's about like a mentality and mindset. Abby.
I agree with what Rebecca had to say, and it's going to be more consumer focused. I would not call it just consumer tech. What goes in consumer tech, but fintech is consumer tech. I know a fellow founder is building parent tech, basically a parent for Reddit for parents powered by VR. We're going to see consumer facing more because newsflash industries have already been using machine learning models for quite a bit. I was looking consumer forables. They had this company called Quantum Black. Quantum Black has been deploying this in industrials, very efficient machine learning models for quite a bit. So like oil and gas has had a very good maturity with oil and gas, alive for a long time. So I think where we're seeing right now is all the leakies interfacing, which we already see the perplexity. Perplexity is coming out either near browser. When did we last see like actually Mozilla and Chrome for somebody to come out with a new browser? So it's going to be everything consumer facing, which kind of is driven by how you consume and absorb information. I'd lump it there.
Yeah, I think just in general in e-commerce, right? And anything that's a touch point of things that you literally come seeing, but there's so much integration happening between social media and regular e-commerce sites, and it spreads across the board, right? If you're looking to buy a house, if you're looking to buy a car, clothing, whatever it may be, if you're fitting between different private scales to send your kid to, whatever it is across the board, AI is going to be part of that decision-making journey at some level, being able to have integration across all of these platforms and sourcing data from what your funds have made in social media to be able to pour that into your own consumption habits. I mean, it's this massive ecosystem that I think is going to be disrupted pretty heavily in the coming years. So I'm not sure if I'm excited about that or horrified, but somewhere in between, and we'll see how it goes.
Somewhere between excited and horrified, but that pretty much explains the world in 2025.
They're trying to burn the earth up in the process.
I'm not trying to burn the earth up. Overall, I couldn't agree more. But look, I really enjoyed this panel. I really enjoyed hearing these fantastic people give some brilliant insights. So would you please show appreciation, please, for Isabel, to Abby, and to Rebecca?